Day 64, San Francisco State University. SF State was started, well, what is now known as SF State was started in 1899, and it started out in, if I'm not mistaken, a tiny little building in Nob Hill, like on Powell between Clay and Sacramento, which nowadays is right where the cable car goes, right down the hill from the Fairmont. Literally right there where the Nob Hill, the heart of Nob Hill. Anyway, when the 1906 earthquake and fires happened, they had to move to Oakland, and then they moved back for a little bit of time to the Western Addition, and then around World War II, they moved to where they currently are in Lake Merced, Stonestown, Southern Strip, that part of San Francisco, which I've covered in other videos. So here's the interesting part. When World War II happened, enrollment was actually really low because of the war. A lot of the students actually went to fight in the war. And I hope I'm not confusing y'all, but at some, way before that, SF State, what is now known as SF State, I'll get to that in a minute, was actually started as a teacher's college because there were not enough teachers in the state of California at the time. So part of the original title of SF State is teacher's college. That I remember was in there. So here's the interesting thing. Everybody knows San Francisco State as SF State. It's a part of the Cal State CSU system, California State University system. So for a time, it was actually known as CSU San Francisco, California State University, San Francisco. And apparently, I would have said if I went there. So I did not go to SF State, if that's not already really obvious. But apparently there was a lot of pushback, and there was a lot of worry that they were going to confuse it with UCSF, CCSF, which is City College of San Francisco, and then USF, which is a private Jesuit school. So that's when it became known as no, this is SF State. That's what we're going to call this. SF State also is where ethnic studies was born. They also have the distinction of hosting the longest hunger strike in U.S. history, led by students, if I'm not mistaken. And this was for the Third World Liberation Front, was the name of the group affiliated. SF State has I shouldn't say fabulous, but has a remarkable history of activism, actually, that I'm barely going to be able to get to, scratch the surface of in this video. But they were involved with occupying Alcatraz Island. They have had every single war, which I know, that's all we do is start wars. They have had huge encampments at UCSF, including for the most recent stage of the Palestinian genocide. That's the most recent stage that was brought forth on October 7, 2023, because we all know that that's not when the Palestinian genocide began. But anyway, last thing I'll mention before I wrap up this video about San Francisco State University is that there was a TERF, which trans exclusionary radical feminist. I don't even remember this girl's name, but she came and did a speech at SF State because of a transgender swimmer. So I remember a super conservative, backing super conservative group, obviously a very conservative person, came, and I do remember that went down at SF State as well. So very, very radical history at SF State, and I think they have a student body of 22,000 people. Far overwhelmingly undergraduates. But last thing, because I do have the experience of somebody that ran for office, the location of SF State is incredibly strategic, because again, based on the year, the congressional district will or will not include that little strip, which that part of the college tends to be more progressive. And that I'll just leave it at that because college students tend to be more progressive. But anyway, it's very, very interesting how those lines are drawn. I've barely scratched the surface of San Francisco State University. Go Gators!